Whether you call them firearms, weapons, guns, generally they've been nicknamed Old Betsy, Big Medicine, the Peacekeeper, and numerous other terms of endearment. Did you ever wonder where your firearm came from? Who invented it? Where was it made? There's always been something that man has devised to project himself and his skills in hunting, fighting, or in sport. Following the discovery of gunpowder by the Chinese, history records the use of firecrackers for amusement, and then firearms for sport and defense. The first type of firearm was a hand cannon or powder shaft, appearing in Europe in the mid-14th century.
This is the earliest known datable hand cannon, dug up in Germany, and it dates from a battle in 1299. Simply a tube, bronze, about 12 inches long, 60 caliber. To operate it, it was placed on a shaft, hammered down so it would stick. It was muzzle loaded in much the same fashion that our muzzle loaders are today, from a powder flask, and then a patch and ball placed on top and rammed home. The firer then took a semi-aim and put a match cord to the touch hole, which ignited the gunpowder inside.
After the invention of the firearm, innovative ways of igniting the gunpowder inside the gun were devised. The matchlock was developed in Europe in the mid-15th century. It was called a matchlock because a match or a rope wick, usually a cotton cord soaked in saltpeter, was used to ignite the powder. The word lock means the mechanism for igniting the powder.
This is an authentic matchlock of the 1500s. It enabled man for the first time to take aimed fire. After being muzzle-loaded like other muzzle-loaders, the pan was filled, the powder covered, and the match cord was lit. The match could be advanced as it burned down. At the moment of firing, the weapon was raised, the cover to the pan opened, and simply the trigger was pulled and the match lit the main charge.
The wheel lock was developed again in Europe in the early 16th century, a rather ingenious but costly mechanism for igniting the gunpowder. The wheel was wound about 3/4 of a turn with a tool called a spanner. When released, the pyrite rubbing against the revolving serrated wheel made sparks which ignited the powder in the priming pan, and in turn ignited the powder in the barrel through the touch hole. The wheel lock was more reliable than the matchlock. Because of the cost, often the owners of such firearms were the wealthy. With ownership came competition for fancier and more costly pieces. Note the intricate carvings on the gun stock. Firearms became works of art. Even gun barrels demonstrated the ability of the artisan. Damascus barrels were the more popular because of the barrel strength and pattern design through hand-forged layering. Later, in the 16th century, flint ignition became popular. Forerunners to the true flintlock design, the Snappants and the Miquelet lock systems were invented, but used for a limited time. Developed in France, the flintlock was distinguished by its combined flash pan cover and steel or frizzen, and by its internal mainspring and half-cock and full-cock mechanism. By 1660, the flintlocks had spread throughout Western Europe and were exported to North America in large quantities. Until 1825, most firearms in the Western world were flintlocks. Then from Scotland came the percussion cap, which alleviated the need for a flintlock mechanism. When the cap was struck by the hammer of the firearm, it ignited the powder in the barrel. Firing a gun started getting easier.
So-called insurgents during the War of Independence in the 19th century. Great American inventors like Colt, Borchardt, Colonel Lewis, Browning, of course, came to Liège to have some of their weapons produced by the local gun makers.
Jonathan Browning was an early American jack of all trades and gun maker. In the early 1830s, he invented these two firearms, which represent some of the earliest repeating rifles in America. Called a slide gun or harmonica rifle, the magazine of this gun is simply a rectangular bar chambered for powder and ball, with cut-in nipples integral with the metal, one at the rear end of each chamber. The length of the magazine and its consequent capacity was limited by convenience. Jonathan considered 5 shots about right. The receiver is a frame which houses the magazine and on which the hammer and trigger are hung. An ingenious small lever, thumb-operated, moves the magazine to successive firing positions, not only locking it, but camming it forward to a gas-tight fit against the bore of the barrel. With a breech-loading system and the percussion cap in the early 19th century, a new era dawned on firearms evolution, the revolving cylinder. Samuel Colt was the first U.S. inventor and manufacturer to capitalize on this. His 6-shooter was caught up in the Industrial Revolution and was the first. In early North America, voyageurs and trappers, pioneers and firearm to be mass-produced. Travelers in general always had a firearm with them wherever they went. They were not a luxury item. Then, a firearm gave meaning to the terms of weapon and hunting companion. A gun put food on the table. It offered protection. It was a way of life. Either from the rust in the barrel or an over-generous powder charge, they netted 3 birds in 1 shot. John would later produce 44 gun designs for the Winchester Company, including several lever-action models. John Browning often said, "The best gun is the simplest gun." Once worked out mechanically, the lever-action principle appears simple enough. Lowering the lever pulls back the breech block, cocks the hammer, and expels the cartridge case from the previous round. Pulling the lever back up sends the breech blocking a new cartridge from the magazine and into the chamber. John also said, "It's not so hard figuring out the essentials of a gun mechanism. The trouble is getting the essentials in the right place." This was a time of fertile creativity, spurred on by the necessity and desire for better firearms, not only for protection and practical use, but also for sport shooting. In the mid-19th century, furthered the development of new types of firearms. The creative spark is often nothing more than the faintest glimpse of an idea. Many of John Browning's ideas were born that way. Browning would later come to be called the father of modern firearms development. In the spring of 1889, at the weekly shooting match at the Ogden Rifle Club, John and his brothers were waiting for Will Wright, who was firing at the target.